Coming into the show right now is an OG inside of our space who has worked with some of the largest household name brands, especially if you're on the golf side, or if you just like hanging out on the beach, spending a
Yeah.
little time out there. I am talking about the one and only Brandon Maskell, who is head of digital product and CRO at Reef. Brandon, we need you inside of the show. Get in here, sir. Get in here, Brandon.
Let's
Look at
go.
How's it
that.
going, guys?
Oh, boy. Hey,
I did not realize we were going straight into it, but the intro was good, so I guess I'm hyped up for this.
yeah, well, we're
Yeah.
hyped up too. You're there out in the wild, and you've got this beautiful setting behind you here, Brandon. Man, we appreciate you making the time and joining the show, sir.
No worries.
Brandon, you've got your background at TaylorMade, you've got your background at Titan Brands, and right now, you're with Reef, which is one of the coolest brands alive for me. I first became aware of Reef when I was in college, and there was that sandal that you could open the bottle with, it's
Huge.
got the bottle opener, which was
Huge.
groundbreaking for college students everywhere. Man,
Still
tell us.
still is.
It's still here. Yeah, exactly. Still here and still doing what it does. Man, tell us, man, of all your tours of duty, man, how have things been going at Reef? How is it different than working in golf and all the other spaces that you've worked in before?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think definitely a lot more fashion forward. Like in fitness equipment, for example, durable goods. Generally people buy those things to last for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whereas
Right.
with sandals and shoes, we're hoping to sell you multiple pairs of those a year.
Yeah.
Um, TaylorMade, obviously, very much about kind of performance and technology and
I think we lost him.
Lost him just for a
We
moment.
lost him.
He's back.
you guys there?
Oh, Brandon, you're back.
Yeah,
Back.
sorry about that. I don't know what happened. No, what I was saying was with TaylorMade, I mean, their marketing's really around, the best of the best athletes, right? So it's kind of like a Nike story where you have really, really well-known athletes. They play the product because they play the product. You should. It'll make your game better. Yeah, and then Reef's obviously a lot more kind of in the fashion space. So what's interesting with Reef is, what you guys are talking, the era you're talking about, it was a kind of a hardcore surf brand, and it's
Yeah.
transitioned into much more of a fashion brand specifically, with a ton of happy, female customers making a lot of kind of style sandals and then recently shoes. So if you haven't tried the shoes yet, definitely get out there, get a pair of the Del Mars for you guys. Crazy comfortable, obviously the same style and beach aesthetic that you're used to. So good stuff. Yeah, Reef is doing great.
A lot more vibes when you're
Yeah,
selling when
yeah.
you're selling
The,
fashion
the
than
word
when
the
you're
word
Yeah.
vibe is used a lot more here than other brands.
That's great.
That's
Now,
amazing.
now, Brandon, my knowledge of you is that you have a particular set of skills in the Liam Neeson, kind of taken way, especially when it comes to CRO. That is your reputation that comes
Yeah,
with
it's
you.
good to know.
Uh, Man, tell me this: when you enter a new brand, like you've been at Reef, you're in the seat for about a year now, and when you start working with a new brand, you're looking at a website. What's your weapon of choice? What tools are coming to you? What do you want to test CRO wise first, and then what comes to mind first? What are you looking for? What's the playbook? Are there phases? What's that look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I actually got kind of my start in the space at TaylorMade, and then I mean, it's been probably 7, 8 years in the space now. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think the tools have changed. So I've used everything from Hotjar, Lucky Orange, enterprise tools like Quantum Metric. Today, there's Clarity that's free, right? So I think most
Yeah.
brands I work with today are on Shopify. Um, Unless you have a specific person team that's going to be in the tool all day, I don't really see why you would pay for Clarity better and better. Clean is still the only Shopify tool that actually gives you visibility into checkout. So that's obviously a huge bonus. But yeah, I mean, I think today it's changing a lot because there's all these AI tools that are kind of attempting to, do the hard work, which at the end of the day, testing the hard work is coming up with ideas that are relevant and that are going to move the needle. That takes time and effort, which is, both quantitative, qualitative, consumer research. So, you work with Clarity and some of these tools, they can kind of give you kind of the on-site behavior, but then you also have the other side of it, which is understanding how consumers think, right? So that comes from surveys, post-purchase surveys, um, focus groups, and really just the hard work of actually talking to consumers and understanding how they tick and understanding what is actually going to motivate them. So that's step one, is doing that hard work, and then from there synthesizing that into ideas, which then becomes the process of actually doing things in the right way, following best practices in terms of sample sizes and understanding how testing works. Um, and then development of tests, which that's become dramatically easier over the last couple of years with the chat GPTs, Geminis. You can go into these tools and say, hey, I'm going to build a test on IntelliGems or VWO or whatever, and I want to do XYZ, give it a page, tell it, what you want to do, and it'll spit out the JavaScript and CSS that you need. And that'll generally get you these days 85% of the way there. There might be some things you need to kind of go back and forth and tweak, but the days of needing a lot of dev resources to get these tests off the ground is behind us. So that's definitely a hurdle that's made the cycle of testing a lot faster.
The way that you approached that was totally different than how I thought you would. I just, starting with a massive amount of qualitative data. Hey, what are our customers saying? What do they like? Focus groups. How can I dig into what makes them tick? Motivations behind why they're coming to us, etc. I did not think you were going to go there, and I think it's great that you bring that up because in my mind when I think of CRO, I think of headlines, I think of PDPs and all the things, but you're starting at a more fundamental level of like, who are these people that are coming to our site? What do they want? And why do they care about us? I find that really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not discounting the ability of headlines, for example. It depends on what your business is too, right? Because, they have businesses out there that I see all the time, like a Groons or some of these guys where, they have tons of ad funnels and whatnot, but they if you go to the Groons website, they literally have like a one-page website, right? So if you think of that as kind of like a testing playground, there's a ton of opportunity. There is the headline that is really like the main thing that's, driving someone's understanding of why the product is right for them and whatever. If you're an e-commerce site that has 500,000 SKUs, it's different, right? Like you have your homepage, which probably is getting a lot of traffic. You're probably driving a lot of traffic to your PDPs as well. And at 500,000 SKUs, you don't generally have the resources to be, you know, putting the time and attention into all of those that you would if you have one page, right? So what ends up happening is you kind of work at more of like a template level, and that's where understanding what parts of that template make the most impact on decisions. So, generally, what I think your question before was, what are some of the tests that you see work, low hanging fruit, anything around value props? I think a lot of sites a more poor job than they think they do in terms of actually getting across what makes them different. There's obviously the table stakes stuff today of free shipping, returns, warranties, and all that, but I think there's so much noise in e-commerce today and brand, like even like a Reef, right? Like we compete with Olakai's, and there's tons of other brands that are, trying to tell their own story and why their product's better and the right fit for you. So it really comes down to, you mentioned vibes, right? Like Reef is a lot about the beach lifestyle in California, Hawaii, all these places that our, surfers are at. So it's about building. The brand piece is obviously about connecting in some way with consumers and why they should even consider you. And then at the end of the day, like long-term success comes down to products, right? Like you mentioned, we have iconic products, we have great products, we have super comfortable products. So those are the things that are going to keep you coming back once you've been introduced to the brand through influencers, through professional surfers, and all the other things that, that brands do.
Wow.
Brandon, I mean, sometimes when you're dealing with some of these tests, like you mentioned, IntelliGems is one of the platforms you're doing the tests inside of. You have to justify why you're doing these tests to upper management. You have to explain results. You got to defend results. Is this true? And also, how are you navigating the quote unquote politics of this? Because you have to really, toe this line properly about the results of everything. And basically you're presenting the data. And how are you doing this where you're not getting your head chewed off?
I've experienced this, needing to manage
Same here.
needing to, I've experienced this a lot.
So that's a great plug. You guys can go find the interview I did with Alex from IntelliGems where we went over that for I think at least a half an hour. But I can give you
Seriously.
the cliff notes would be, I think, some of the things I went over with him, and this goes actually back to my days at TaylorMade when, that's 8 years ago, probably wasn't as well known as it is today. And that's a large company, new to testing. I think the initial part is education, because I think a lot of kind of top level executives, they understand the concept of testing. I would venture to guess that the vast majority of them don't know the finer details of like how it works, right? Like how much traffic do I need? How long do I have to run the test for? When can I call the test? All those things are important to understand when you're actually reporting results, right? Because what you'll generally see with upper management is they don't have a lot of things like this, right? And they want answers immediately. So I think setting proper expectations is important around, hey, we're going to run this shipping threshold test, right? Like we probably want to run this for, let's say, 2 to 4 weeks. It's not going to be done in a week. And you're definitely going to get emails, Slacks from them saying, how's it looking? How's it looking? How's it looking?
Yeah.
And you can certainly send them a screenshot, show them the numbers, but they need to be clear that that isn't, concluded test that you can trust. So, yeah, I mean, education's the first part. I think, having a kind of templatized like post-mortem that you do on tests, right? No executive wants to go into IntelliGems and decipher the charts and do all that stuff. That's the
No.
job of the person running the testing program. So, what I've developed over time is, and this has gotten again even easier with the chat GPTs and IntelliGems and the other testing tools. At this point, even have integrations into those things so that you can kind of automate a lot of this. But basically pulling out all the learnings into layman's terms of this was up, this was down, this is the reason for that. And then, another piece is not just kind of ending with a single test and being ready to take that next step of, okay, we want to go implement this, but we still think there's opportunity to continue down this road. For example, we're going to go test the shipping threshold and it's a winner. Great. Do we keep going further? Is the brand and everyone comfortable with that? Similar things around return fees and kind of the more, I mean, this is some of the stuff I think IntelliGems has popularized on the Shopify side is like, I think they call it profit testing. But things beyond content of button colors and headlines of what's the price of products, what is our, return fees, what is shipping rates, all the things that at the end of the day really drive profitability. I mean, you can scale order volume all day, but if the economics on each order aren't great, obviously you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah. I think generally I kind of, well, I like this take. I like this take on kind of reframing CRO in the sense of, what are we really trying to do? We're trying to increase profit. More conversion is great, but we want more profit on the backside there too. I would love your thoughts on, with the increased capabilities that we have with every AI tool that continually comes out, is there a kind of a bigger risk, big reward category in CRO anymore? In the sense that I don't need as much dev time. I don't need as much of this, of what it would require. I can just spin up, I can vibe code, a brand new page, inside of 5 minutes. Is there like a big risk, big reward category anymore? Or is it truly all out in front of us? And we don't need to just kind of categorize like, oh, we'll go for quick wins here for the next, 8 weeks. What's that look like in practicality on your side?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I mentioned before, the proliferation of the AI tools and even the AI features within the testing tools that exist today are changing the game to some degree in terms of velocity, right? Because one of the biggest challenges of driving, large gains from testing is just velocity, depending on how big your store is, or basically traffic and order volume. That's really the thing that caps your ability to test, right? Because you need enough volume to trust the results from each test. So obviously, brands that are doing, have tens of millions of sessions are in a different category. But I think, I'm not super sure about, who's listening to this podcast, but I would assume it's probably more in the mid range of, let's say we're in 25 to 100 million. So yes, there's definitely the more automated tests that are going to be brought up, these tools of, I'm trying to think of some example. Like the most simple example is like adding value props, let's say under the CTA, right? Like that's not groundbreaking. Like I'm not denying it's probably going to work, but I think to my point earlier is the things that are really going to shift like your business in a large way is going to come from the harder research, which is not surface level like insights, right? It's going to come from doing focus groups and talking to tons of customers to understand, in some cases, like what they actually feel that they don't even say, right? You might be in a focus group and people say one thing, but then their action on site is actually something different. So those are just nuances that, you can't get putting in the hard work. So I'd say that they're just different categories, right? Like I think in the future, what's going to happen is you're going to be working on these bigger initiatives, and then you're going to have this kind of always on AI kind of optimization layer that's there.
Very interesting.
Wow. It rings true because we've had Aman from Ministry of Supply on the show, and he calls 3 to 5 customers every single day, still for his business, and it's a massive business. And then we had Sarah Levenger on the show, and she is so bullish on, putting these groups together, getting this feedback from customers. And she's saying more Shopify stores need to be doing this, even though it's a little bit more traditional. There's so much kind of, that's being left on the table that they just don't know about, which is unbelievable.
That's my biggest kind of fundamental takeaway from everything that you're saying, Brandon, is that there is a substantial harder piece of the work when it comes to what is happening digitally with pixels on the screen. There's a more fundamentally useful, necessary form of work that needs to happen with really getting in front of people and talking to them and mining all of that, and then really getting at the meaning behind what they're saying. Sometimes they're not even articulating that. I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
We may have lost Brandon. We may have lost him.
Yeah. Well, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
He's on the move.
Connections.
He's on the move. This is a great.
Yeah, I think
no. This is great.
Well, what's funny is this is the first non-85 and sunny day. I'm in San Diego, so it's pretty beautiful every day.
Nice.
But no, I think what I heard you say was that, yeah, I mean, I think that's the cusp of it is it's hard work, right? And you mentioned, I think, the Ministry of Supply guy that calls customers every day. That's what every brand, right? But they get kind of inundated with the daily task, and they forget that is the most important thing, is understanding what your customers want. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of stories like that, right? Of like CEOs that go out of their way to talk to customers. And I think that's what helps them win.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, man, we appreciate you joining us. We're going to be following Reef here the rest of the year and seeing what exciting things come out there. I need to go and get myself equip myself with some of those new shoes. And man, we look forward to having you back. We appreciate you making the time, brother.
All right. Sounds good. Appreciate the time. Yeah. Check out, we actually have those fanning sandals in a shoe as well with the bottle openers. So those will take care of you for your next 15 years.
There we go. There we go.
I love
it. I love it. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Awesome. See you.
All right, guys.
Wow.
Talk to you next time. See ya.